everyone, it's me Perry, also known as Books Aren't Boring. Today I'm coming at you in my attempt for 1600s clothing, which is nothing like what they used to wear, but you know, it's fine. But the theming here is because we're going to talk about the Crucible. This is not actually the Crucible. It's like a collection of Arthur Miller's works. It also has Death of a Salesman in it, so I can do Death of a Salesman later. But for now, we're just talking about the Crucible. I know that I discussed it in one of my earlier blog posts, as you will see if you can check out the links in the description, which have my blog. And I talked about how Crucible is a good Halloween story. Well, it's well past Halloween, but I am still making a video about it because I really like the story. It's kind of convoluted because there are a lot of characters, but I'm going to try to summarize it down for you so that you understand that even though there are a lot of characters, there's just a few main components that are really important, and the actual story is pretty interesting. So let's get into the video. Hopefully the looking in the camera thing has been resolved because I did a couple tests and hopefully I was actually looking in the camera. We can hope. I would first like to preface this by saying that even though the Crucible is based in the idea of the Salem witch trials and is based in Salem, it is not a reflection of what actually happened. It says this in the foreword actually. It's Abigail, the main antagonist's age has been moved up because of the events, but Abigail, like in real life, like the Abigail person, was very small, and there were a lot more judges and a lot more people involved, but of course you can't have that many people on a stage when you're trying to perform a play. Here we have my official notes on the stuff so we can finally get started. So another disclaimer, I've had like 2 already, is that whenever you see the word like goody, if you go to read it, which you should, if you go to see the word goody, that is basically an approximation of like, I don't remember exactly what the word means, but it's basically like misses in the time, like it means like good mistress or something. That's just when they're speaking to differentiate the husband and the wife, because of course like it was still the early times, so the woman was considered like an extension of the husband basically. So we have Reverend Hale, who is very important in this. He's of course like Reverend, so he's important in this time because a lot of the stuff from the Salem witch trial was a lot of religion-based stuff, so of course you need a reverend in here. He basically believes that witch trials are kind of like a self-defense for him. He doesn't believe that what he's doing is wrong, even though obviously witchcraft isn't like a thing. They just thought like women reading was witchcraft, so that's not real. But then Reverend Hale ends up feeling bad about his actions at the end, which we will discuss later because it gets a little bit spicy near the end in a bad way. Then we have Judge Danforth. He sucks because he's just like, well, you're a witch, goodbye. And he's also really gullible, so of course Abigail, the main antagonist that I already said, he's like, yeah, totally, you're possessed, you just said it once and like you're acting really strangely, even though it's bad acting. Okay, maybe I should get into the story of this. Abigail did this thing where she was in the forest with like some other girls, and they apparently were dancing, and then after the wooded forest thing, Ruth Putnam got sick in a way. She like got into a daze, she was afflicted in some way, and the Putnams are rich, but only one of their 8 kids survived, and that kid was Ruth, so they're really involved with the story, of course, because their kid was directly affected by witchcraft, you know. Then we have John and Elizabeth Proctor, who are very important. John Proctor is someone that basically has an affair with Abigail, even though she's like really young, so this part's kind of weird. But it's also weird because Abigail is like, of course, would be a victim, but she also uses this to her advantage because he has a wife named Elizabeth, and Abigail doesn't like Elizabeth and wants to be with John. So Abigail's like, if you tell anyone, I'll hurt your wife, or I'll tell your wife, and he doesn't want that because he's supposed to be a good man. But later he's like told by Reverend Hale and like all the Christian people that like infidelity is a crime, and it's all that. Basically, Abigail wants to get Elizabeth executed because she wants John all to herself, which is kind of insane, but I love Abigail. I played her when we did the reading out loud of the Crucible. I'm very attached to her. Then we have Giles. I have written here, iconic old man, go Peepaw, go. Yeah, he's old and very stout in his ways. He has kind of a more minor role, but he's part of like the showing what happens when you do the mass hysteria, where he accidentally told, I'm pretty sure, Reverend Hale, that his wife stopped him from reading whenever she was in the room, and it was probably just like the effect of like he was enamored with his wife or something, but Reverend Hale was convinced that his wife was a witch, and so he died trying to protect her from execution. Mary Warren is the other girl who was involved with Abigail. Originally, she just like knows what's going on with Elizabeth because she's Elizabeth's like maid basically, but then gets caught up in Abigail's shenanigans and then just kind of goes along with it. And of course we have Tituba, the token black character basically, who knows all the magic. Tituba is from Barbados, and yeah, she was a slave, and she is the first person that gets accused of witchcraft by everyone, basically Abigail, because she did voodoo. I don't think it was ever proven that she did anything magical in any capacity, even though that's more of like a cultural thing, but of course they wouldn't know that. She told them, the kids, stories about like witchcraft and all that, so she got targeted first, and then I believe she ends up dying, or she gets at least jailed. Yeah, she basically sets off the whole chain of events, and that's kind of how the whole book gets started, other than basic introduction of characters and all that, as you would in a play. So we're gonna talk about Abigail for a second. We're just gonna set aside a little bit of time for that, because Abigail doesn't actually have that much nuance to her, but we are just going to discuss her a little bit anyway because she is very important. So Abigail Williams is pretty young. Like, I'm pretty sure she's under 18, but she is the most manipulative in the book. In the play, she is extremely good at just like making people do what she wants, not necessarily in a manipulative way, but just like convincing people. She's very good at conjuring up hysteria. Like, there's this whole scene where they're like screaming about like witches and like, oh no, that kind of thing. And it's an entire, I can't even explain it. So Abigail is just very power hungry. She wants to like basically control everything around her. So that's why I said she's like manipulative. She accuses multiple people of witchcraft, even though she knows that they have not done anything resolving in witchcraft or anything like related to it. She's just like, well, if I accuse them, then they'll be gone, because she wants them gone. And there's no real reason for what she's doing, which is why her character can be kind of one-dimensional. Like I already said, I have a hard time explaining her, because really there's not that much to her other than she's just like a big force that comes through the entire book that's a constant. Wherever she goes, like problems will follow, and nobody seems to pick up on that except for Mary Warren, and Mary Warren just gives in to her kind of. And then the funniest bit, I believe, it's not really funny, but it's funny in the way that after all of this, after literally just creating chaos in a town and causing multiple people to be killed, Abigail just runs away. She's gone. She takes all the money in her family because, yeah, she takes all the money in her family, just leaves. And the only thing that's left to her is just like legends of what she did. No one actually knows how she ended up. Some people are like, oh, she ended up in Boston, but no one really knows what happened to her. And of course, it's like a story, and the real Abigail is different, but it would be nice if we were told what she did. Not everyone knows, like, you may never know exactly what a person did in general, though, so. And then back to the subject of John Proctor that I mentioned at the beginning. We already know about the whole Abigail-John affair. I just wanted to briefly touch on Abigail so you understood exactly what he was dealing with here. So John is going to court because obviously his wife has been convicted of witchcraft. And then eventually he tries to basically tell everyone in the court that Abigail is making this all up, Elizabeth is innocent. But the problem is that Abigail is really good at being really a terrible person. So John ends up just dying because he was killed for his sins of infidelity and for witchcraft. He was, I believe, the only male in the book to be convicted of witchcraft, because that's what they do when they want to kill someone for lying, I guess. When they don't think someone's being truthful, when they think they're trying to manipulate you, they just convict you of witchcraft. Surprising that he went and not Abigail, considering Abigail was running the whole thing. But then again, as I mentioned, Judge Danforth is an idiot. So he wouldn't have caught on to that, but obviously they're going to catch on to the older man who had already committed the sin of cheating on his wife. So they were already out for him, and then they were just like, oh well, time to die. And at the end, Reverend Hale, I think I said this, but he feels bad for John dying because of this, but he's still kind of in his beliefs because, you know, the Christians this time are really just like, witch is bad, which is bad. So, as I will say, the plot is not super deep. The basis of the plot is people are getting convicted of witchcraft, and if you ask who caused it, it's probably Abigail Williams. But there's so much, like, so many little things in the text that are very important to pick up, and it's just, if you consider it kind of like a soap opera type of story, it's much more interesting to read because you're not thinking about it in terms of like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to memorize every single thing. Just think of it as like a over dramatic TV show, because of course the events in this book were probably dramatized so that, you know, you can make a good story out of it, because that's usually how these things work. And I don't think that Arthur Miller was thinking of creating such a book that was historically accurate, but you know, if you're looking for something historically accurate, this is not what you're looking for. But if you have the Crucible on your reading list, and you must read it soon, if you're reading it in class, that's awesome because it's really good to read it out loud. But if you have to read it at home, you should probably maybe look for recordings, read it out loud to yourself, maybe read it with your friends. I know you can't really with COVID or something, but like online hangouts, no, they're getting rid of those, on FaceTime. Yes, that's what the kids do. But really, my job on this channel is not to summarize everything in the book for you, but rather to convince you that this book is worthwhile. So hopefully I brought up enough interesting points that you actually think, oh, maybe I should go read this book, because I really enjoyed it, even though there were parts of it that kind of dragged on in general. Like, the ends of the acts are usually very high tension. If you want, you can probably go find a recording or something online of the actual play, because that would also be really cool, because, you know, yeah, cool. So again, thank you for watching. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to check the links in my description for all of my social medias revolving around this channel, and keep an eye out on my blog for more future posts. Remember to read the Crucible if you have to. Don't ignore your readings. Bye.